Well, hello everybody. Right, I've got to remember how to do this. So, this is the first clip bit for the non-club members. Welcome to the channel. Please subscribe, press the bell icon, and we'll tell you when we've got more clips coming up. And if any of the tips and tricks are useful along the way, you can always buy me a coffee. The link to coffee buying is in the blurb to all my main YouTube channel clips. For the club members, obviously, there are no adverts. The same clips go up. They go up 24 hours ahead. And there is no mention of coffees, subscription, bell icons, or any of that admin. So there you go. But you're all very welcome anyway. And this is for the ordinary YouTube. So I've made a clip for the dear old club members, and it's a full list of all the seeds that I've ordered for sowing this year. Exciting times ahead. But as you can see, it may be January the 3rd, and to my shame, my sweet peas that I sowed in the autumn still haven't been planted into the tunnel. And oops-a-daisy, here we have ranunculus, which have been overwatered from above in a hurry by dear old Fabrizio, who was only doing what he was told. But as you can see, A, they should have been planted out a long time ago. And B, that's what happens when they get too wet and they won't like it and they'll be rotting. So luckily for me, Christmas and New Year are done. And it's that lovely week before everybody goes back to school, before I go back to work properly, when basically I can spend quality time on my own in my polytunnel, which is very good for my mental health, and get done all the jobs I should have done before Christmas, including planting out these ranunculus and these sweet peas. And the first thing I'm going to do is snip out the sweet peas where they have grown leggy. And I'm going to bring the camera and show you what I'm doing. Right, you can be quite ruthless about this, but I'll show you properly. Look, one set of true leaves, two sets of true leaves, snip. And I'm doing this, not everybody does it, but I'm doing it because then my sweet pea plants bush up and I get more for my money. I am not looking for especially long stems. I like long stems, but I'm not going to mad for them. But what I like are bushy plants with lots of material and loads of flowers, because I use the whole plant in my design work. And there we are. Okay, I'm going to plant these out too. While I'm here, some of my scented pelargonium cuttings, they're all fine, but they did get a bit nipped by those heavy frosts. So I'm just going to snip off anything that's looking a bit frost damaged. They're still going to be fine, so long as they have enough leaf to photosynthesize, they'll be fine. And looking closer, I realise there's a bit of powdery mildew going on here. So I'm taking these right out and pinching out anything manky. And the reason it's powdery mildew is dear old Fabrizio, while I was away up in the North Country looking after my parents, has overwatered these and left them in the wet. And so they've got really soggy and they really hate it. In the winter, don't overwater your plants. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Right, here's the small tunnel. And you can see piles of wood ash. I'm just going to rake it in. It's just a nice soil conditioner. It's good potash for the soil. It's very important that the ash should not be from preserved wood. This is just ordinary wood that we burnt on the fire, and the ash gets raked into the soil here. And I grow very ordinary ranunculus. And that is how complicated my labelling is. It's pink. The end. So I just pull the ranunculus in a clump out of the tray, and you can see they pull apart quite easily. Just tease them apart, and then they come apart into little clumps, and you can plant them clump by clump. Very simple. And the nice thing about flower farming is that if, like me, you are a natural flitter between jobs, I always like to do about 9 jobs at once. Once I've planted 1 tray of ranunculus and pinched out the sweet peas, I suddenly think, ooh, I wonder if there are some hellebores coming up. And I ping up here to have a look, cut the leaves off from last year and give the hellebore buds space to grow through. And look what I've found. Here come the hellebores. And I'm just taking out, just like Mum did at her place last week, taking out the old leaves and making room for spring. Oh, it's very satisfying. And there's the new. I do think it's amazing how, when just before Christmas, I felt as though, the end of the world was nigh, and I was completely overwhelmed with all the jobs I had to do. And here we are, 3rd of January, getting the jobs done, and I know the sap isn't rising yet. I know it's still deep midwinter, but my goodness, just a minute or two's light every day more, instead of a minute or two's light less every day, does make a difference. Right, time for lunch. And that is the end of my first day back. I haven't planted the sweet peas, but they're in their places. But I've done various other things. I feel much, much more in control. I feel completely out of control when Christmas kind of hyperventilating. Anyway, I have got till the end of this week to really start getting on top of the garden and getting on top of everything. And along with my do less better for this 2023 thing, I feel as though I'm already doing a bit less but better. Because if I had last year's Georgie would push on through and plant all the sweet peas. But I can do that tomorrow morning. It is still the week before we go back to work. And if I don't take the dog for a walk now, then what's the point of having a dog? All right, off we go. By the way, one more thing. I've planted all those ranunculus, but I haven't watered them in, which is kind of against the law. But it is very damp. You see by the way my hair is curling. And so what I will do is I'll water them in tomorrow morning very carefully by hand. They won't die overnight. The forecast is 11 degrees tonight, so they won't freeze and they won't die of lack of water. But what I don't want to do is get them too soggy so they rot. So I will gently water them tomorrow so that they've got all day to dry before the evening. I don't want them to get wet, soggy. Very important with ranunculus, not to overwater. There you go. And I might give them a tiny little feed with some loose poo, liquid poo. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, press the bell icon, and we'll tell you when we've got more clips coming up. You can always buy me a coffee if any of the tips and tricks are useful. The link to coffee buying is in the blurb to all my clips. And if this whets your appetite, there's going to be pretty much all of this content plus over on the club here in 2023. We've already got 50 members. It's a miracle. And here they are the next day looking very happy. They could do with the water. You can see they could do with the water, but they've not died in the night or been eaten. So that's a start. So now I'm doing something very risky. I am taking soaked ranunculus claws and putting them straight into wet compost in the polytunnel. We've got 2 weeks of mild weather forecast, and then when it gets cold again, I'll fleece them. But I'm behind, and so I need to catch up, and this is a way of doing something less fiddly. It may not work. We'll see. I'm also having an experiment putting some ranunculus direct in the soil outside. Now, we're on very non-draining clay, so this is very likely a waste of time. However, I have got several inches of really good quality mulch on the top here. And I'm basically putting the ranunculus into the mulch. We've got 2 weeks relatively warm, balmy, mild, maybe is the word, weather forecast. And then we have a horrible ice storm coming, by which time they will have sprouted, I hope. But I will then fleece them. We'll see. I mean, you know, you've got to have a go, haven't you? Sometimes it is a fact that over the years, my experiments have often been the things that completely change the way I flower farm and make life much more efficient. So we'll see.